Hello, my name is Hannah Gagan, and I will be doing this presentation on if early childhood programs should prioritize guided play over direct instruction. What's important to do before we talk about the debate is just understanding the definitions or the difference between the two sides of instruction, one being play-based learning and the other direct instruction. I will note too that play-based learning and guided play will be used interchangeably, as it is quite often done as well when researching articles as well. The biggest difference between these two is just kind of how it sounds. Play-based learning is the idea of guiding students and teaching them through games and activities and other types of play, where direct instruction is the classic seat work style, where they are learning by carefully planned instruction. So for play-based learning, the real main thing about it is that it is a type of play that is within a context that's been set up by an adult that's pursuing a particular learning goal. So while play is a pretty broad definition and could be talked about in a bunch of different ways, play-based learning is specifically that is used with the intention for a child to learn something. There is an inherent emphasis on student agency by letting them choose things and making choices for themselves. A great example is teaching students about colors and mixing colors and how they can create different colors with the mixing. And this goes into the next point too, with scaffolding but not interceding. Maybe you show them an example of how to mix it, but you let them do the work and make the discoveries for themselves. And you're not telling them specifically what color mixed with what other color would make the new color. Like I said with play, there's a vast net of categories of play and play-based learning, and those categories are distinguished in different kinds of ways, but there's a great one that I found that just splits them up by different kinds of play-based learning styles or intentions, and that would be construction, functional, pretend, sensory, gross motor, language, visual, and again, so much more too. This is also important to know that it's applicable to all subjects. There may be some that are more naturally inclined to fit with play-based learning than others, but a lot of the research that's done on play-based learning specifically relates to literacy, numeracy, executive function, and socio-emotional development. Direct instruction then is, of course, that classic seat work. It's the carefully planned lessons that are designed by teachers that are in small increments that are really guided by the teacher dispensing the information to the student, and the student learning and creating those connections. There's an emphasis on learning in preparation for a standardized testing or meeting specific like learning goals or standards, and of course being prepared for things in the older grade levels. Direct instruction also notes that skills are introduced gradually, little by little, and you give children a chance to learn those skills and apply them before you give them a new skill set. Even though it's incrementally, if you're in a group, this also means that direct instruction means that lower performers and disadvantaged learners must also be taught at a faster rate than others. if they're able to catch up to those higher performing peers. But a general good rule of thumb for how direct instruction works, as a bird's eye view, is just 10% of new material that they're learning in the lesson, and 90% of the lesson is actually review or creating those connections between learned information. So, what's the cause for debate? It's really the curriculum standards and laws and just beliefs that we need to create a stronger sense of understanding academically through our testing. Laws like the No Child Left Behind Act has put a lot of pressure on schools and teachers to introduce this kind of seat work to be able to perform well on those standardized testings. So that means that if they're doing more of that seat work, they're going to be doing less of that play. I think a really apt quote for the other side, trying to promote foreplay, is noted at the bottom. The false dichotomy between play versus formal learning is now being challenged by educational reformers who acknowledge the value of playful learning or guided play, which captures the strength of both approaches and may be essential to improving executive function. All this is really saying is that there's one side that says that we need the direct instruction because we need to be able to hit those marks and get that data and get the standards met that we are required of from our districts, our states, our legislature, whatever is dispensing that. We need to hit those marks. The other side is saying, well, certainly we do. However, that doesn't mean that we take play away. In fact, it can actually help us create that. And their push is even saying that instruction is created with play and that it cannot actually be separated out. For us to really understand and make a distinction of what's debate side works best, we really need to hone in on early childhood development and understand how younger brains and bodies are growing and learning, so that we could appropriately meet students where they're at. These three quotes are very apt in explaining how important play is for students. And when they talk about play in this instance, it is the broader sense of play. So not just guided play, but also free play, which could be associated with recess. Even still, this is all three of these quotes are really honing that play is an essential part of human growth and development, as well as animal development. Brains are formed when they're developing. They need those instances of play to create those strong connections and functionings in their brain. The first one is great. It says play is not frivolous, it's brain building. Play has been shown to have both direct and indirect effects on brain structure and functioning. Also, too, the second quote really helps us understand that play has been very widely researched and throughout a long time. Most contemporary Western European conceptualists describe play as a fundamental part of early childhood and a natural way of learning in which children make sense of their world. There's a lot of educational learning development theorists that have pretty consistently, in their own ways, talked about how important play is. Maybe they've talked about the different aspects of the socio emotional benefits or their own brain development benefits, but all of them agree that play is essential for their growth. Finally, the last one says that dynamic brain changes evoked by play facilitate and promote great brain growth by creating those pro-social circuits in the brain. So now that we understand that a lot of research has been done in support of play in general, a lot of supporters in guided play or that play-based learning style is the ultimate middle ground between free play on one end of the spectrum and a direct instruction on the other end. Guided play kind of sits in the middle of that and is supposed to take aspects of both to be able to produce a more desired outcome for our students. I think that this quote is really, really apt in explaining what people on the side of guided play do believe educationally. Guided play in the classroom is educational when it's joyful, it's meaningful, actively engaging, iterative, and socially interactive. This kind of breaks down into a few different ideas. One, guided play is thrives off of motivation. When we know what students are motivated by, they're able to learn more when they're intrinsically invested. And if they have that natural motivation, they're also going to be actively engaged in the material. There's also the idea of enjoyment. That's the idea of having a joyful learning to create a meaningful experience for them. I think it's important to understand the opposite. Stressed brains can't learn. Having those joyful learning styles can kind of co-opt those stress receptors and help those bodies feel safe so that they are able and prepared to learn. There's also the fact that guided play is still planned and it is still learning. It's just a facilitated activity or event where students are working or playing, I should say, toward a desired outcome. So that's it's still intentional. It still has a goal or a strand or standard in mind. Just the act of you getting there is maybe a little bit different or has a little bit more flexibility than your traditional direct instruction model. And of course, too, the last of it is the agency. It allows students to take charge of their own learning and it reinforces self-choice for them. Again, that example of mixing their own paints, they get to make their own choices and discover their own things without us having to tell them. We can kind of create the guardrails for them to have those kind of experiences and watch them kind of start building their own self-resilience and ability to choose on their own. Another great few quotes here are just supposed to help support that guided play is a evidence-based strategy. These three all really drill the idea that play-based learning classes ought to be successful. That means they have to have it well planned and prepared. And when that is the case, like they do really, really thrive. The first one saying the intersection of play and guidance is believed to offer a powerful vehicle for early learning, harnessing the motivation and exploration that children benefit from during free play, and a Vygotsky-inspired recognition that children's learning and development can be extended when effectively supported or guided by an experienced partner. So what that quote's really saying is it's one, reaffirming the inspired learning strategy of Vygotsky and his idea that play and learning should have a social base to it, and that social base is modeled, at least for the play and guidance, by the adult in the room. So whether that's the parent or the teacher or whatever adult working with children, you are working as the model that they are able to kind of copy and work with and kind of watch behaviorally to make their own connections. Secondly, in a successful play-based learning class, teachers often have a clear learning goal behind the play that they let students engage in ahead of time. Really, this is just really driving home that play-based learning is still intentional. It's still planned and it's still learned, and it's still working towards a strand of a standard. Even though they're not creating maybe like an assessment kind of work that you can grade to confirm that they have that strategy, there still is that goal, and data just needs to be collected by other means other than a piece of work like an assessment. Finally, this was a big study of a meta-analysis. So that's when multiple studies about the same thing were pulled together to analyze to see the efficacy of all of it. And in this specific one about guided play, they identified that significant events for guided play have a greater positive effect than direct instruction on early math skills, shaping knowledge, task switching, and a greater positive effect than free play on spatial vocabulary. It's great when a standard, when a style is great, when it works well, but if it is so great, then why isn't it already standardized? Why aren't we doing it yet? One that isn't on here is that research is still relatively new. The 2001 law that was placed in the US at least really kind of started focusing teachers on creating that stronger direct instruction styling. However, most of the research that's done, you can see in the references, are post 2018 to recent. So within the like last decade, a little bit less than that. There's been more research that's been coming out kind of stating the opposite, that play is really important. But of course, with that, why isn't it standardized yet? The current standards pressure that they have. Although the research says that play is and guided play is so beneficial, many teachers do struggle to apply guided play due to their concerns of missing set standards and missing the mark. Also, there's also a general lack of curricula and training. So this also ties into the fact that these play-based strategies are still relatively new in the education sphere. Even though that studies prove their benefits, there's a lack, and with that, very little consistency within the curricula and the practices. There needs to be more research that's done, and more specific ways that we can teach teachers and other adults how to really effectively teach particular standards with this kind of strategy. I do really believe that the unifying force between both sides, regardless of where you land, is all of us are looking for student success. My personal opinion is that we ought to go wherever the students are leading us, especially in terms of data as well. So then with that, my belief is that play-based learning is a vital part of the learning experience. Based off of the staggering evidence, it's clear that this teaching strategy is much more effective in producing academically prepared students than practicing earlier integration of direct instruction. So to me, the strong data on why play is so developmentally appropriate, and how play-based strategies have been already showing big improvements for certain sections or studies subjects. I do think that it is a worthy investment, and if anything to add, it just means that we as educators or adults need to do more research on how to effectively start adding that into the classroom more often. So what can we really do? Here's some strategies for educators and families. Educators and parents or families can facilitate more playing activities that have a clear intention. Taking time to really know what do you want what do you want the child to know by the end of their play, and or understand by the end of their play. That should be at the forefront. Also, encourage students to be active participants in their learning. Play can't happen unless they're actively involved in it. So if you don't have that active engagement, you're not going to have an effective play-based learning event. Also, I think it's really important to note that adults must listen to children's interests and find ways to apply it to the play for that increased relevance and with that, their active participation. When we listen to students and their interests, of course, we can make those connections, which is very important, but it also can clue us into how we can find the appropriate angle of play to really help them understand a new concept. So those are the strategy side, and the other side is just to try it out, create more opportunities for play, and create that joy for intrinsic exploration. And then, of course, too, for play-based learning, you do need to be involved in the play yourself. Include yourself into those opportunities to play with them, because guided play is even more beneficial when adults are modeling behavior as well. Here are a few exemplary explanations of play-based learning in practice. The picture on the left is actually a book that I found as a resource that is noted in the resources section. But I did find this book to be really helpful, and if you're very motivated to have play-based learning styles in your classroom especially, this would be something that you would want to keep on a bookshelf to quick tab pull. They have a great explanation section of why play is so important, particularly pretend play. But then they also do give you particular strategies that you can use to help start integrating play into your classroom. So it's a very practical tool in that matter. Next to it is this video I will play. This is a video of early childhood engagement in play for preschool, but this is also in Australia.
My name is Jade Steele. I am an early childhood teacher at Early Learning, and I currently hold a Bachelor of Education, birth to 5 years. The different teaching approaches I use in our classroom range that include teacher-initiated, which is where I will focus on an area and support the children through that topic, as well as scaffolding children's learning where they might need extra support to achieve a common goal. We also focus on inquiry-based, allowing the children to investigate and explore, but also play-based is a massive area that we focus on here to allow the children to learn and explore and investigate through their play at their own time. Play-based learning supports children in wanting to learn because they see it as fun, they see it as their opportunity to play. When engaging in these activities, children can develop skills that range from physical to fine motor, as well as social and emotional. It also caters for communication, problem solving, critical thinking and investigating. Role play is a great opportunity for children to explore play-based learning.
We will often set up our mindfulness space for children to explore different roles. At the moment, we are currently looking at community roles, where children will often play different cafe people. That might include someone serving, someone ordering, and these give the children confidence to take what they're learning at PDD and using in the real world. So that might be an example of the use of money in our cash register. They can make that connection with the real world when they're ordering something at a cafe. The environment as a third teacher is vital in the early childhood education. Here at EDGE, we focus on creating a sense of belonging as well as providing opportunities for play, where children can explore, investigate through provocations, and create learning experiences for children to engage in. Another experience that children love to do is water play. So we will often set up the tub with lots of water, with different colours, different equipment for children to scoop and pour, transferring the water from different areas, as well as creating different potions with items like mint or basil to create that sense of smell as well. We'll often set up animal play-based activities for the children to explore. This might include adding sensory, where we might use food for the younger children, as well as herbs and spices from our gardens for them to smell and feel and taste to provide a different approach to their learning. Relationships with our families are a vital piece to our learning. We will often communicate with our families on arrival and pick up to explain our day, as well as focus on the areas of learning. We'll also use Story Park to communicate with our families as well, giving them updates through stories, photos, but also we can have those conversations through there as well to let them know about learning.
All right. I'm going to close out with a quote from a famous learning psychologist, I believe, or theorist, that just says that learning is the process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. This really is important to me because I believe that this is a great way to connect that learning is done by experiences, and learning, I guess, that lasts for a long time. Is tied with a strong experience as well. So if we give our students or children more opportunities to have meaningful experiences that also teach them something, it would also just really, really help them learn so much more. Thank you very much for listening to this debate topic. Here are the references to the quotes and the books that I utilized in creating this slideshow.